Edelweiss and CNBC TV 18 present Change India, what India needs.
Hello and welcome to Change India, our ongoing series where we have been trying to look at much needed reforms in various sectors of the economy. Today we have what I can consider the lifeblood of the economy, the financial services sector, and the set of reforms that are needed for this sector. Well, in a way, this is the kingpin of this entire episode, also because the most important reform announced by the 100-day Modi government has been in the financial services space in terms of the Jan Dhan Yojana and the desire to give a bank account to every household in India before the flag is hoisted the next Republic Day. So we'll start our financial sector reforms discussion on that note, but of course, separately, we have got a whole host of reforms which the Reserve Bank is also planning. I have a star panel to discuss all the issues over here. Joining me actually from Delhi is the Joint Secretary, Financial Services Department, Mr. Anurag Jain. And here in Mumbai, in the studio, I have with me Usha Thorat, former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Mr. A.K. Purwar, former Chairman of State Bank of India and now runs a private equity fund, Ajay Srinivasan, CEO Financial Services of Aditya Birla Group, and Mr. Deepak Mittal, CEO of Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance Company. Gentlemen and Mr. Thorat, thank you very much for joining me. Well, let me start with first the financial inclusion program. While the government has launched it with a lot of emphasis, separately the Reserve Bank has been having a payments bank and a small bank concept, hopefully to the same end, financial inclusion. Well, Mr. Jain, you know, the Prime Minister has advanced the financial inclusion one account per household scheme to 26 January. Now, are you confident that the banking system can deliver it in such a short time and as well ensure that these accounts are used by the account holders?
I think banks have really responded extraordinarily well. I myself was amazed at the kind of dedication which our bank officers put in the system. On the day one itself, about 1.84 crore accounts were opened, which was against, which belied or exceeded all expectations. And therefore, we are fairly confident because the kind of response it received, Prime Minister's speech, his clarion call, that created so much of positive energy in the whole system. As you would have known that he has written to each and every bank employee also personally.
Yes.
Personal email has gone. And the kind of atmosphere which was created, so people are coming on their own to get their accounts opened. So to that extent, our efforts have been reduced.
Yeah, Mr. Jain, you know, that program was widely televised, and we, of course, on CNBC TV 18 stayed with it for the better part of 2 hours that the program was underway. But I have since had several discussions on it, and while I am very much keen that that program succeed, let me tell you some very serious hurdles that I found. Over the last 2 years, the Reserve Bank has also given targets to the banking system, and many banks have opened a whole host of basic accounts or no-frills accounts. One chairman told me that about 75 lakh accounts were opened by his bank over the last 2 years. Almost all of them are lying dormant with no transaction done. And I got the IT secretary of that state, and actually I'm talking of Andhra Pradesh state, the unified Andhra Pradesh state, and he said that to ask him whether he would start using all these bank accounts to transfer government services. And Andhra Pradesh is a very active one with a lot of self-help groups. And he said that only last year we transferred all these accounts from banks to the post office. And now you're asking me to transfer back. So, you know, while the Prime Minister has written to state chief ministers, this is really walking in all directions. Bankers are not confident that this will be used unless all the government payments happen through those no-frill accounts. And at least the one state which is financially very literate, very high on Aadhaar, Andhra Pradesh, is not at all on the same page.
Not really. Let us understand the dynamics. What was happening earlier, one of the major sort of shortcomings of our earlier program was that we did not have a total geographical coverage of the program. Under Swabhiman, we had covered villages with 2,000 plus population.
Yes.
So even if you open the bank account and you are able to transfer the money directly, a villager needs a cash out point. So one of the major points or emphasis of this program has been to cover the whole country geographically. So each and every part is under some SSA, and typically the distance of the banking facility point would not be more than about 5 kilometers or so. So given that, people will have a place where they can transact. In the earlier program, all these accounts were actually offline in a way.
Yes.
They were locked to a particular vendor. So what used to happen, you cannot draw your money from any other person, and if vendor is or this BC is visiting the village once in a week, so you have to wait for that particular week, and in that particular week he doesn't come, it goes for 15 days. Now in this particular thing, technology has been used extensively, and it is interoperable. So with a RuPay card is also being given to him.
Yes.
For some reason, if BC shop is closed, he can go to the next village's BC and draw the money, or go to ATM of the town and draw the money.
Yeah.
So this is much more facilitative. Given the cash out points will be there, this we are reasonably confident that they would be used. Of course, till the time DBT starts, DBT will definitely come. When the presentation was made to Honorable PM, he was very positive about it, and this is a huge program. So we are creating a basic infrastructure on which all other line departments and the state governments can ride on.
Your point is that even without DBT, even at the moment you are going to facilitate interoperability and the RuPay card, and so a villager should logically use it even if the government funds were not coming through that account. Correct?
Yeah, there as part of the financial literacy, we are encouraging people to save money also and put their savings. As earlier, what was happening, since people were finding it difficult to withdraw, they were just withdrawing the wages. Say MNREGA, Andhra example you gave, they would just withdraw the whole sum. Now what has happened in this drive, when day before yesterday, 2.3 crore accounts had been opened.
Yes.
Against that, 1107 crore rupees were already deposited.
Okay.
So it's a CASA, it's a reasonable business case given the commission of the DBT plus the CASA deposits which will come. It's a reasonable business case for banks.
Fair point. Okay, let me get the other stalwarts in. Mrs. Thorat, financial inclusion was your baby when you were in Reserve Bank as well. Do you think this system has a better chance to succeed?
I think one very important point that was made by the Joint Secretary is that the kind of commission on the DBT, which was a very much a point of dispute for many, many years, if it's finally clear that it would be going up to 2% of the payments, then that is something that really makes it, you know, worthwhile for the banks to put in the kind of investment and resources, because this is quite a high transaction cost business, and you do need the money, you know, to flow through the account. You do need transactions to flow through the account. So I think that's the first important thing. The DBT is a very, very important thing. Secondly, I think the fact that 4 products will be offered through the same account also makes an account much more viable. And that actually is the real effort. After all, opening an account is just the beginning of this whole process. No doubt it's a difficult thing, but the more difficult thing is to encourage the savings habit, you know, to actually make people work on that overdraft and develop a track record for repayments, have that insurance thing, have the debit card. And also when you talk about the RuPay debit card and expecting villagers to use it in the absence of DBT, I would say that very often the merchant outlets, they don't want to be part of the payment system. So how do you induce a Kirana shop or any retail postpaid say franchisee of a telecom to actually come in and bring all the transactions in the shop through that account, so that actually a villager can use it for purchase of fertilizers, household goods,
do you see
any
this,
kind of thing.
this process?
That I would say is still something, a big challenge, and one has to tackle that, because half the people don't want to deal in cash. And cash management can become a huge challenge, and I think that has to be simultaneously looked at, you know, the way the cash
I completely take your
recycles.
point. I can remember maybe 25 years ago when credit cards first came, a lot of merchant establishments were unwilling to use credit cards even in a city like Bombay. So I can imagine that, you know, a Kirana shop guy would be worried about his cash flow, and that will be a just genuine problem of reaching unless digital money is able to solve the problem, which is where I think the payments bank will come into the picture. But I'll come to that in a minute. Mr. Purwar, since you have seen it all, do you think this has got a better chance to succeed, Also, since you look at NBFCs very closely, and NBFCs now can become business correspondents, so are all the pieces falling in place?
Let us look at it this way, that what has been the historical experience and how this product is different than. Historically, we have opened number of no-frill accounts. And the experience has been terrible because there were hardly any transactions taking place. As Mrs. Thurot rightly said, you have a bouquet of 4 products at one place. A lot of attractive features for various people. Yes, it has a good chance of success. Also, there is an incentive for the banking system that to get some commission out of it. But having said that, there are 2 things which I feel are very critical. One, that government has to find a way that whatever payments have to go to these people, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, these accounts are definitely get utilized for those purposes. 2, that in self-help group program, already a large number of accounts are there in the banking system. Can we transit or can we bring these self-help group beneficiaries under this? Because there the banking system, the experience has been extraordinarily good. And if we can bring those customers to this platform also, perhaps it has a much greater chance of success.
So you should give bank license not just to Bandhan but to a whole host of MFIs. Then they will come.
Not MFI, banking system.
I would actually supplement what Mr. Purvas said. The self-help group movement in India has probably been the most successful financial inclusion program. The main thing is that if women, members of self-help groups, have to also get their payments through the DBS, then they would also need an individual RuPay or a debit card at least. And I think at the same time we should not allow that to erode the value of the self-help groups and for them to go outside the self-help group for banking and financial services. So it's necessary to use the existing infrastructure of the self-help groups to really take it as an opportunity for providing the various kinds of services to the members.
I would assume that this is where the buy-in by the chief ministers is needed, buy-in by the state governments is needed. And since the Prime Minister has written to many chief ministers, many of them participated in that launch of that program, perhaps this piece will fall in place in the days to come. Okay, on this point I need to take a break, but we are back with all our guests and we will further discuss the issue of financial inclusion with them in a minute.
Edelweiss and CNBC TV 18 present Change India, What India Needs.